Welcome back to Ferocious Education. This is Ed. Today we're going to be talking about OCGN as an update. I'm going to run through a bit of due diligence updates, news, and then technical analysis. So without further ado, let's jump right into this one. I covered this one previously. You'll find my previous video in the description below. Nonetheless, let's just run through some of the latest news just to get a bit of perspective on what they've done. So recently, they did announce the first quarter 2021 financial results. And some of the highlights, including the Go vaccine, demonstrate 100% efficacy against severe COVID-19 diseases, including hospitalization. Master file submitted for US FDA review prior to a planned emergency use authorization application for Covaxin. $100 million in gross proceeds raised through a registered direct offering of the common stock. Key talent acquired, representing an instrumental step to position Ocugen or OCGN for future growth. So just to cut it short, they're a pharma and they're working to get Covaxin, a vaccine developed by Biotech, into the US. And there is currently a split between that profit that is almost equal in that sense. But the question here comes in that what is the progress for Covaxin, as it is one of the biggest kind of attention grabbers for OCGN. Now, OCGN does have other pharmaceutical pipelines, such as, for instance, breakthrough and modifier gene therapy platform for OCU400 and OCU410 that go through different things, and OCU200. But the major focus onto here, especially from retail and institutional investors, are coming in towards the Covaxin development. And in that sense, you get to see that there is good improvements coming in from Covaxin. For instance, on the business highlights, in April 2021, OCGN announced that its co-development partner, Biotech International Limited, shared positive results for the second interim analysis results of its phase 3 clinical trial, which showed 78% overall efficacy against COVID-19 disease and 100% efficacy against severe COVID-19 diseases and 70% efficacy against asymptomatic COVID-19 infections. So definitely does show you good results, but a bit more about this one in terms of news. A part of it is that they're looking at it and saying, hey, by the way, you know all these strands that are going on, double mutant, this one is somewhat still effective towards that. They did have an annual meeting planned up as well for coming up on June. I'll talk about that in a second. But before going on, OCGN announces studies shows Covaxin potentially effective against 3 key variants for SARS-CoV-2, including the Brazil, the UK variant, and the India double mutant variant. And so that is some of the positive results you're looking at. And then moving on forward, we get to look a little bit into the current cash, for instance, and the total assets has increased. For one reason, of course, year over year, they did raise a good amount of money through the direct offerings, etc. And so that was one of the ways that they're actually reducing their debt in general and reducing their exposure to that debt. Now, in terms of revenue, of course, they are pre-revenue in most cases, although in the year 2020, they did have a small amount of revenue, around $42,000. But generally speaking, they're almost in this pre-revenue cycle. So just keep that in mind, that they would probably be burning through cash until that Covaxin comes through into the US and they're able to sell that. Now, also, they have other pipelines that are still in research and development, and that development part would probably bring him back towards the market or bring him to the market, etc., and get more revenue. And what I was referring to towards the annual meeting, theirs is on June 11th, 2021 at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Keep that in mind. Before moving on towards institutional interest, where a little bit of interesting things are happening here, just make sure if you would like to see more contents like this, scroll down below, click that like button, subscribe, and if you would like to join our Discord, it's totally free in the description below. Now, moving on now towards institutional interest. What we get to see here is that it's a little bit mixed. So take a look into BlackRock Incorporations. They increased their position by 53.77%, adding 3.4 million shares on here. Now, something like Black Swift Group liquidated their position, although Savant, my side, the list goes on, it looks like it's a little bit mixed. Now, in the last 2 weeks, I would probably say you have almost millions of shares being added. A major part of that is from BlackRock, but then next comes in Patriot Investment Management and then Savant Capital. So it's a little bit mixed, but I would say more bullish than bearish in the last 2 weeks. So now we can move on towards technical analysis, but just before doing so, the short interest or short float seems to be somewhere around 20%, so it can actually get a kick from a short squeeze, but not as massive as you would think. So now towards technical analysis. Now, on the technical analysis perspective, when we're looking into a one-day perspective, we're seeing things that are being a little bit interesting to us. So for instance, the 30 EMA is above that 10 SMA line, which usually indicates a bearish indicator. However, the price point is above that 50 SMA at the 871, hence bullish, and the 50 SMA, the purple line, is above the 200 SMA, which is bullish. Usually the lower above the bigger is bullish for the SMA. And in that sense, it's a little bit mixed, but mostly bullish on the moving averages than bearish in that sense. Now on the ADX, we're dropping back from around 31.96, so it's kind of cooling down a little in terms of momentum and volume, and you get to see that momentum as well as dropping, so that's understandable. It's kind of mixed. It's neither bullish nor bearish. Now on the willing percent R, we're looking at this one here is highly oversold, sitting at 81.66. Now it can be even more oversold all the way up to 100, but it's still considerably oversold relative to what you've seen back in early May, late April. Now MACD here, this is a very critical situation where you're going on almost negative side, if not negative, on the MACD. Usually that signals negative reversals or accumulation. So the best hope is that coming in Monday, Tuesday, you start seeing that reversal. Otherwise, this one might actually start testing supports. On the moving averages here, we get to see more of a wider range in general, going on 1022 on the top, 836 on the bottom where it's expected to trade, but it's not really been trading around there anyway, for a while at least. Now on the stochastic fast and stochastic slow, both are telling you be careful because they're both dipping down a little, or at least moving on horizontally, and it's about testing that significant resistance or support. Now on the Fibonacci retracements, before going on through a price line action, supports and resistances, which is usually the traditional ones, the Fibonacci ones here, you're looking at 729 as the current support, following that to 457. Current resistances, 948, 1167, 1480 and 1877. Now on a price line action, you're getting to see that there's a significant support level actually sitting at 884. Below there, a very strong one at 803. Below there, 662, and then diving down to 581, going towards 385, and then down to 201 and 146. Now, significant resistances from what we're seeing is that there's 987 resistance. That seems to be very strong. Above there, 1157. Above there, 1275, and a very strong one at 1382. If it does break that, you're probably looking at 1615 and then to 20 bucks. So it comes to the question to Ed, what do you think is happening here? Now, a big indication here from where I went last time, I did say that you're probably going to go ahead and get some jumps, etc. Covaxin, the actual vaccine profits will be somewhat equally distributed between the two, Bharat Biotech and Covaxin. And the question comes in, we're not seeing actual estimate figures out of that, although we understand that there's going to be around 100 million doses. From my last video, I did talk about that, or at least they anticipate 100 million doses multiplied by how much each of them cost. That's a good amount of money. Now, the question is, how are retail investors feeling? And I think it's going to be a bit more of jumps and drops and jumps and drops, and it's going to be more of like trading it for at least for the next few months. And it might actually come from news, etc., or just market sliding down and this one tanks, and then next day next week there's a couple of news comes up and this one skyrockets. And I think it's going to continue like that. At least that's how I see it doing so, or performing in the near future. What do you think about the sticker? Make sure to mention down in the comments below. Share, subscribe, and like, and have a wonderful day. Now, if you made it this far into the video, I do recommend that you go ahead and join our Discord server. There's a lot of amazing folks in here. We do a lot of discussions here into the trading floor throughout the day. A lot of people are in there, and we do ask questions. You can ask me any question you would like on there. We do post research and DDs, and we hold weekly chat sessions. And we also do have a lounge in there. So make sure to actually join that and join the fun there. Have a wonderful day and a good one.